If you're a parent, you have probably been there. It's late, the house is finally quiet, and then you hear it. A small voice calling out, absolutely terrified of the monster under the bed. It's such a classic part of being a kid, right? But that doesn't make it any easier to deal with. So today, we're going to dive into a really powerful, super creative technique to help you and your child turn that fear into, well, fun. It sounds a little silly, doesn't it? But stick with me, because this one simple question is at the heart of a scientifically grounded method for taking the power away from childhood fears. It's all about using the most powerful tool your child already has, their own imagination, to completely rewrite the story. All right, so to really tackle this problem, first, we have to understand where it's even coming from. I mean, why do these imaginary creatures feel so incredibly real and terrifying to our kids? Well, it all comes down to the amazing and kind of weird way their brains are developing at this age. For young kids, let's say between the ages of 3 and 8, that line between what's real and what's make-believe can be incredibly blurry. It's not that they're being irrational, it's just a normal developmental stage. Some people call it an imagination reality leak. Basically, their imagination is so vivid that it can spill over and feel just as real as anything else in the room. And this isn't just a theory, we can actually see it in action. There was this famous experiment where kids were shown an empty box and were just asked to imagine there was a creature inside. And guess what? Even though they knew the box was empty a second ago, the power of their own imagination made that threat feel so real that many of them were too scared to put their hand in. That's the exact same powerful force at play in your child's bedroom at night. So, knowing all that, what do we do about it? Well, we basically fight fire with fire. We are going to use that same incredible imagination as our main tool. So let's walk through the 3 simple steps of what we call the monster makeover. This is a super practical guide you can use like tonight. It really boils down to just these 3 things. First, you get the fear out of their head. Second, you completely change what that fear looks and feels like. And third, you put your child back in control of it. Let's break each one of these down. Okay, step 1 is all about getting that big, scary, undefined fear out of their head and onto a piece of paper. This is a psychological trick called externalization. See, by drawing the monster, your kid creates distance from the fear. It's no longer this invisible terror hiding inside them. It's a thing on a page that you can both look at together. All right, now for the really fun part. Together, you're going to give this monster a makeover. You're not trying to erase it, you're just changing its whole identity. Ask them, what if it has a really high, squeaky voice? Or what if it wears fuzzy pink slippers? Maybe its name is just Fred. And maybe Fred's biggest, darkest secret is that he's terrified of broccoli. By adding all these silly, absurd details, you're systematically taking away its power to be scary. And this right here, this is the goal. We're guiding our kids to take that scary image from their mind and help them transform it into some goofy, harmless character. This visual shift you see on paper mirrors the mental shift that's happening inside their brain. The fear is literally being redrawn into something they can manage. And finally, you seal the deal with a brand new story. So now that the monster is just silly old Fred who hates broccoli, what happens next? Maybe your child teaches him how to tell better jokes, or maybe they convince him that broccoli is actually pretty good. The key here is that in this new story, your child gets to be the hero. They have the power, the control, and the confidence to handle it. But look, making the monster silly isn't just a fun little distraction. There is real therapeutic power in using humor to fight fear, and it's pretty fascinating to understand why this works so incredibly well. Think about it. Laughter is such a potent tool. It physically relieves tension in our bodies, right? It also builds this amazing bond of trust between you and your child. But most importantly, it gives them a feeling of mastery and control over something that just a minute ago made them feel totally powerless. Humor literally short-circuits the fear response. And this brings us to the core principle of this whole technique. This is kind of the elegant secret behind why it all works so well. This quote just nails it. Your child's imagination isn't the enemy here. It's actually their greatest superpower. The very same mental engine that can dream up a terrifying beast in a dark corner can also be used to put that same beast in fuzzy slippers and give it a silly name. You're just helping them learn how to steer. So, and this is a really cool part, This fun little drawing game you're playing, it's actually a kid-friendly version of a real technique from therapy called cognitive restructuring. It's a big part of cognitive behavioral therapy. You're helping your child take a thought like, there's a scary monster in my room, and actively replace it with a much more helpful one like, oh, there's a silly monster in my room and I'm in charge here. And you know what the best part is? This doesn't just work for monsters. Once you get the hang of this basic idea of externalizing a fear and then reframing it, you can adapt it for all sorts of common childhood worries. So for example, what about that general feeling of anxiety? You could turn that into a worry bug. Just like the monster, you give it a name and a shape. It's not some big scary thing, it's just a little annoying pest that buzzes negative thoughts in their ear. And once it's a thing, your child can learn to tell that worry bug to just buzz off. Seriously, you can adapt this for almost anything. Fear of the dark could be a grumpy but harmless shadow who just needs a nightlight to cheer up. A fear of dogs could turn into a story about learning to speak dog language. The creative possibilities here are totally endless. And that's really the big takeaway here. The monster makeover isn't some magic trick just to make one specific fear disappear. It's a lesson. You're teaching your child a fundamental life skill, that their fears are manageable, that their imagination is a tool for strength, and that no matter how scary a story might seem, they have the power to pick up the pen and write a much, much better ending.